Millions of Americans are in panic mode. Why? Because of healthcare costs that are set to reach shocking levels that millions of Americans will not be able to pay, not easily able to pay for some people, and not able to pay at all by the calculation of others. Take a seat and let's talk about what's happening in arguably the richest country on earth today, supposedly the richest country in the history of the human race. Now, most people watching my video aren't Americans, so let me bring you up to speed. If you thought paying for healthcare is a developing country thing, it's a global south thing, right? Once you develop past a certain point, obviously you don't have to pay for healthcare. Well, you're half right. You see, most of the advanced economies of the world, which are largely in the Western world, provide healthcare without payment. But America is a bit cheeky, or their wealthy insurance giants are, at least. In America, healthcare costs a shocking amount, tens of thousands just to give birth in a hospital, like women don't have enough problems. Hundreds of dollars for drugs that cost just tens of dollars north of the border in Canada or other parts of the Western world, like in Europe. And to cover these exorbitant costs, there are expensive, I can't speak today, it's been a long day. There are expensive health insurance plans that people can get. Get insurance and you're good to go, right? No crazy bills. You won't have to pay for anything except the insurance, of course, like car insurance, like home insurance, car insurance, especially, you might be more familiar with. But even the insurance in America for health is expensive. And starting next year, if Obamacare, as it's colloquially named, or the Affordable Care Act subsidies, as they are technically called, if they are not renewed, the subsidies, then for millions of Americans, their insurance will cost a hell of a lot more. One source says an average number for someone wanting to buy a silver health insurance plan for an individual can cost $621 a month. I was like, what the flip? What are you feeding these Americans? Not what are you feeding the economy, right? $621 a month. That's eye-watering, bro. That's like rent. A rent to stay alive, right? Break your foot. Oh, GG. But that $621, as I read it in an article, is for if you've used the subsidies currently in place, if you're using Obamacare. That's the good price, basically. If subsidies, meaning the discounts, are removed, which is what's being threatened currently in the US, that cost will potentially double. $1,200 a month, bruv. Just take a flight monthly to Canada and get yourself sorted. I don't know, or India. I don't know. Anything but this, surely. Now, Axios reports a family of four may pay around $35,000 per year just on health insurance right now. This is the good situation. Imagine if that goes up. GG well played. GG well played. It's been fun. Thanks for playing late stage. Thanks for playing late stage capitalism, USA style. Now that's the news. So bye bye. Go if you especially if you're American, bye. But be sure to look both ways. Look 3 or 4 times before you cross the road. You get what I'm saying? And now here's the analysis, if you have the time. The US government is currently shut down. That means that hundreds of thousands of government workers or federal workers are not being paid. Not a penny, not a dollar, not a dime, right? And it's shut down, to put it simply. You can get into the nitty gritty, but to put it simply, why is it shut down? Well, because Democrats want healthcare subsidies that I just mentioned to be renewed. So people, kind of can afford healthcare. It's already bad. They're saying, please, can we not make it even harder on the most impoverished Americans? But the Republicans don't want to budge on that budget issue. So both sides, sort of stood off, and they passed no budget at all for the government, and therefore the government is shut down. No one who works for the government is being paid, except for, exceptional circumstances like ICE. ICE, you need to make sure you're detaining those, the damn... Anyway, let's just carry on. Trump's policies, it would seem, based on his actions, right? I'm not for or against Trump in this assessment of mine. I'm trying to be impartial here. Trump's policies, just factually, it seems to be, is to be populist when looking for votes and elitist when looking to benefit someone. Votes from the worker, but benefits to the wealthy elite. This latest Republican move perfectly demonstrates this. The working class, the more impoverished Americans, face rising bills, thousands of dollars a month, potentially more for healthcare. They're already paying hundreds of dollars minimum for healthcare, potentially even more now moving forward. Businesses may struggle or refuse to cover their employees' healthcare if costs go up so much, so quick, that they feel they can't take on that additional burden and still make a profit or make enough of a profit. And all of that won't only affect Democrats, right? This is not, a selective healthcare thing that, that checks who you voted for. No, Republicans will suffer too. Impoverished Republicans, right? Lower class, working class Republicans. And like the Epstein files that are not yet released, Trump's administration is focusing on rhetoric to direct citizen attention elsewhere. Look at China, look how bad they are. Look at Europe, look how they're mooching off the great USA militarily. Look at Nigeria, latest. I made a video about it earlier today. Look at Nigeria, they look like they need some good old fashioned American freedom, right? The Christians in Nigeria. Look at the Christians in Nigeria. Christians in Palestine? Come on, go. Are they even real Christians? One might think the rhetoric out of the US is basically saying, no, let's look at these Christians because they serve our purpose. I mean, sorry, because they're genuinely Christian. Look at Venezuela, right? We need to get the oil out of there. I mean, we need to get Nicolas Maduro out of there because, he's so bad. He's such a dictator. Same thing. Freedom incoming. Now, zooming out a bit, right? Keeping calm. We can keep calm. We can steady the ship. Otherwise, you'll sort of go into mental breakdown if you look at the day in, day out of Trump and the roller coaster he's on and he takes everyone with him on. Zoom out and his policies actually stabilize. It's quite consistent. We can rise beyond the day-to-day and look at the long term. Look at the trajectories of the American state under Trump's administration. America and its citizens are in for a rough ride. It's not exactly a roller coaster, as Trump's day-to-day rhetoric would suggest, but it is a downward trajectory, as evidence would suggest, right? Most policies of the current administration seem to focus on taking care of big corporations. If you're a big corporation, if you're a wealthy elite, this is not bad news to you, I suppose. So I'm not taking sides. I'm just giving you the information, right? Great news for you if you're a big corporation or you work for one of the big wigs, right? Trump is taking good care of them and putting extra burdens on the working class, and even freedom of speech, of course, another matter in the social fabric of the US, even freedom of speech is being curtailed. You only get freedom of speech, you still get it, as long as it aligns with the administration's views. Otherwise, your right to freedom of speech has been cancelled. It's expired, my G. And with conditions like that in America, well, you can't really criticize countries like China or Russia for sensitive. What the hell is sensitive? Sounds like Sensodyne, but for the tip of your nose or something. No, as I was saying, you can't criticize. You can, but it's less impactful. It sounds less sincere for America or American officials to criticize Russia or China or any other government that has a more centralized manner of governance and more control over their state or otherwise media, right? You can't really criticize them as effectively now because you're curtailing your citizens' freedoms as long as they oppose yours. You give your people free reign and you give the other side, you clamp down on what they have to say. This is by the way the same technique that's used anywhere in the world that moves away from giving power to the people and cracks down on opposition to the state. It's just that America was touting itself as, freedom, loving democracy, liberal democracy, but that's, the mask is coming off. Turns out you're just like every other country that wants to keep control of the narrative and is willing to put state force on its citizens to ensure that. China doesn't come out and say we're the, land of the free where you can say absolutely everything that you want. No, China's like, there's an understanding in China that the paternalistic, the fatherly figure that can be personified by the state, it watches over you like a child. You can't just act out and expect nothing to happen. The state will come down and smack you across the face. But in America, there was this idea that that's not the case. We can say whatever we want. Turns out, no, you've been bamboozled. Anyway, for the unbiased news and analysis without the Western spin, I'm Mahfouz, and I'll see you on the next one. I've not got more to say on this one, so have a good one.